One of the hardest angles to draw the human face from, regardless of what style it is, for me at least, would be from below with an anti-view or from above with a bird's eye view. Obviously I'm still developing, but I think I'm pretty good at them now, and so we're going to be going over how to achieve those in this video. And as a model, we're going to be using one of the main characters from my series, Apple Black, Neon. But first, real quick, you guys who support me are all MVPs. How are you all MVPs? I don't know, you just are. Supporting my manga books, at AM, the channel, and so on. So I'm slowly expanding Whyt Manga as a whole. So like I said last time we discussed this, I'll be making more content on Amino. Amino launched a new video story feature like IG, but with more features. They've already built a strong and unique video library as well. Some of the content I'll be making, may be discussions or analysis regarding my books and why I made the decisions I made, and maybe some of you guys will learn from that. Behind the scenes stuff, making simple content that maybe may not fit YouTube. So who knows? I'm also open to suggestions. So it was cool when Amino reached out to partner up, and boom, here we are. Use the link in the description to find me at Whyt Manga on Amino, and hit the follow button, hit the notification button so you stay notified each time I upload anything on there. How to do that, there's an example on the screen right now. And then you guys can go enjoy the 2 Amino stories that I have up there. There should be one up there as I'm talking to you right now. And every time you watch any of my Amino stories, you'll be expanding your support for me. Back to the main video, don't forget United States to smash that like button, subscribe button, and hit that bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. So we're drawing an anime manga face viewed from below. Basically the hard stuff, hard angles. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. I'm going in here with my character Neon, like I just said, and we're going to draw the same character again, but now we're just going to tilt her head almost like she's looking upwards, or you can view it as we're looking from below a little bit. So here, it's almost like trying to get the basic shapes, as you can see, and then just moving the camera, I guess. Whether you're moving your head backwards or moving the camera, you're just moving it a little upwards, right? And so you can think in layers like I always do, I always say on this channel, and it helps break things down for you. And that's how it is simplified when it's just straight on. But now what you do is you move the jaw up a little bit. The cross that goes, on the face, that's kind of like a guide. There is more of a curve upwards, and the ear gets smaller and pulled downwards, right? Because one way to do this that will also help is to actually look at real references, or any references depending on what style you're going for. In some cases, real is like a good foundation to start with, and just draw what you see when you tilt the head upwards. So you see I have like a shape there to symbolize the triangle-ish shape for underneath the nose, the space for the eyes. Everything is almost going to look like it's all squeezed together, but it's really appropriate for the camera angle. One thing that you should not be afraid to do in this instance, and I certainly wasn't when I was learning this, was to make sure that you're keeping an eye out for any errors you may be making, and make sure to make the corrections. Don't be afraid to fail, don't be afraid to make the mistakes, and just be diligent and make sure that you can identify them and make adjustments. Adjust. Sometimes you could draw and just step back the way I just did now with the nostril. I felt like the nostril was just a little bit too long. So once you're done with those basic shapes, you can then now make things a little more organic, and then you just hacking away the design or the drawing, and just making sure it looks good. And sometimes that means you taking a step back and just looking at the illustration and making sure everything is in its right place, and you make whatever adjustments you need to nail it. So the key things to note here is once you have the character in this angle, you're going to see more of the nostril, you're going to see more of the upper lip, the ears kind of come down, the jaw is obviously not straight, but definitely not forming that much of an angle versus when the character is just looking straight on. Also if the character is looking straight on, like we can see on the left, the head is tilted down a little bit, and you can see that curve in the eyes, almost like a U, like a really spread out U. And when the character's head is kind of looking up, it's doing the opposite. It's kind of like an N, like a stretched out N. Once you're done with all the hard stuff and where things are supposed to be placed, and then you're just making things organic and putting whatever features the characters have, just slapping it on there the appropriate way. There are many reasons why you'd want to do an angle like this. Maybe the character is one that's I wouldn't say Neon is that, we're just using her for this video, but maybe the character is one that looks down on others, and usually you would see them have their heads in this position. It kind of symbolizes that maybe you're looking down at a character, or maybe a character is looking up at this character. You know, maybe there's just a sense of superiority there, and that's why you'd have stuff like this. There are many other reasons, but that's just an example, especially if you're one to make a comic or whatever project you're doing. When you feel the need to do angles like this that are a lot more dynamic than having the character just straight on and bland, you know, you might want to do things that are kind of expressive, that give more of a message or tell more of a story than everything being just plain. Again, you just keep adjusting, and that's how you kind of learn this stuff. Another great way would be to get a bunch of illustrations that kind of have the head in a similar position, and you try to copy, but not copy for the sake of like copying pasting, but you're copying to learn so that you don't need to use reference anymore. Iteration comes into play. You're kind of doing it over and over, and your muscle kind of remembers all this stuff, and over time you become more comfortable drawing it on your own. I recommend starting with realistic images, maybe from life, before going into, say, more stylistic images, maybe from your favorite creators. Draw it over and over again with reference, and then transition to drawing it without the reference. And then, you know, once you're done, you can kind of compare and contrast and see what errors you continuously make and try to rectify it over time. Real quick, with things to watch out for, as you can see here with the eyes are kind of like doing a little curve here, like the way they're positioned. They're doing like a stretched out end versus when the character is looking head on, especially when the character's head is slightly slanted down a little bit. It's doing more of like a stretched out U, kind of similar to that first cross for the face to help guide us with the illustration. With here is doing more of an N. The bridge of the nose is much shorter, and we get to see more of the nostril versus here when it's straight on. We see more of the upper lip than the lower. We still get to see the lower lip, but we get to see the upper lip much more. The lips, you know, the position of it is kind of going up a little versus what we had before. And you know, everything kind of seems like is a little squeezed, but it feels appropriate because of the camera angle, the way we're looking at her from, or if her head is kind of tilted back a little bit versus here. The jaw here, when looking straight on, is doing more of an angle versus over here. Everything, like I said, everything is like a little almost squeezed together. The ears, the position of the ears are, you can see like kind of like the end of the ears are like almost in line with the lower lip, and they are both beneath the eyes and the eyebrows if you're just looking head on. And in some angles you can see it's almost like in line, like the tip of the ears are almost in line with where the bridge of the nose ends. So these are just little things you can use to remind yourself when you're putting illustrations like this together. Now with this new angle here, we're going to attempt drawing the shape of the head here. I always kind of start that way a little bit, but I always kind of not mess up, but like, you know, alter like the overall shape, especially when it comes to the cheeks. Here you can see the jaw, the angle we're shooting from is a much steeper angle, I guess, and it's almost like the jaw is going upwards because the camera is so low. And you know, there's that part where I have these, it's not like a completely round circle, it kind of goes in a little bit. My style is kind of like a little realistic, but not too realistic. And you know, I have the ear on the side, and some of it is going to be covered up because of the angle. So we're going to see more of the ear on the right versus the one on the left, right? I have that jaw, I did a little shading just to kind of show where light is coming from, just a little bit. That's not the focus of this tutorial. Putting some earrings here because I know I'm going to put it in anyways, but those are things you can save for last, especially when you're putting the illustration together. You want to focus on the easy stuff. And here I'm just trying to figure out the positioning of things. So I have that line, that curved line, that you don't always need that basic cross across the face for guidelines, especially if you've been doing this for a while. So I have that line that goes from one ear to the other. I always do it halfway so I know where the nose is going to be. Again, here we're going to see more of the nostril, and because the angle is so steep, the mouth is so close to, you know, the lines that indicate where the nostril are. Again, we see more of the lips, the upper lip versus the lower lip. Looking at the illustration head on from where we're standing, right, looking at her from a little from below, the eyes are positioned, at least the lines for the eyes are positioned a little beneath, you know, the lines that indicate her nose, the bridge of the nose and the nostril. Again, here the bridge of the nose is almost non-existent. but obviously it's there. It's just because of the angle that we're seeing from. And then once you're done with the eyes, again, still doing like that stretched out end thing that I was talking about, the hard part is kind of done. And now we're just putting out all the other features that the character has, all the other features that Neon has, putting in the hair, and then filling out the gap. And then here, the things to watch out for, I would say, are similar to what we did before. Again, the curve here is a little more steep, so the end, or rather than calling it an end, you could think of it as a rainbow. And because her head is not straight on, it's not so much just basic straight on rainbow. It's doing a little curve just to give us a good map of what her face is. And you know, a more accurate map will be something like this. But we just have the line. The line there is just to guide us. And again, we're kind of using that to decide how we want the eyes to be. Rather than straight out like this, they're more slanted to be more in line with the mapping lines, I guess. Again, we're seeing more of the nostril, more of the upper lip. Same stuff. The only difference is here, because the angle is so steep, rather than just having the jaw just meet, it's kind of coming up a little bit, and then we just had some shading. You know, the ears are even lower. They're more in tune with the mouth, because the angle is steeper. The steeper the angle, the more the ears go down. It's not like they're actually down, it's just because of the angle. And then the shape of the head, the forehead is going to be actually cut a little bit. We're not going to see that much of the forehead because of the angle, versus if we're looking straight on, there is more room for forehead, versus over here the forehead is, we see less of it, especially because of the hair, but we see even less of it. And you know, for now I say those are the main things to worry about. Kind of use the shape of the forehead to determine where the eyebrows go, eyelids, and if you start off like that, if you can map this out and remember this stuff, you're in a good place. Same as before. I'm going to put myself there. The things to watch out for here are, you know, the similar stuff. We have the nose over here, you know, where it's almost like a triangle with more of an angle, because again, the angle we're looking at the character from is still, you know, pretty steep, but is just slightly towards an angle to where we're only seeing more of one side of the face. We're going to see a similar thing, more of the nostril, more of the upper lip, the eyes to the side, the ear way down here below everything because of the angle we're looking from. But it's still, again, if you just look at it like that, the other ear is probably somewhere here, we just can't see it. The jaw, if you want to continue the jaw, still doing the end thing because of the angle. Normally rather than call it the end thing, let's call it the rainbow. Doing this here because of this angle is doing more like this, right? We barely see any forehead. Still gonna see a little bit, almost always, depending on the angle. But for this example, we don't see. One key thing here is you don't get to see the other eye at all because the nose is blocking it. So you have to ignore it. I see some people make the mistake of trying to force an eye in there because of the angle, and it just doesn't work. You're trying to show something that just shouldn't be seen, and so people will struggle with that. And the only reason you're struggling with it is because you're trying to force an eye into a place where it's not supposed to be. And you can almost think of it like foreshortening, where parts of the body are blocking other parts of the body. So the other eye, we're just going to ignore it because we don't see it. That's easier for you because, you know, that's an eye you don't get to draw, I guess. Those are the key things to remember here. Ear is still pretty low. In some cases, it might be higher. You want to keep in mind that styles are different, and even human figures are different. There are people with faces that are very different from one another, and so things might be placed not exactly the same as everybody else, but it's always going to be, at least you know, with a realistic approach, it's always going to be pretty close. The things to watch out for here are, you know, the similar stuff. We have the nose over here, you know, this where it's almost like a triangle with more of an angle, because again the angle we're looking at the character from is still, you know, pretty steep, but is just slightly towards an angle to where we're only seeing more of one side of the face. So rather than if it was straight on, it would be like this, but then the angle, because of the angle, maybe it'll just look more like this. And then we know we're going to see similar thing, more of the nostril, more of the upper lip, the eyes to the side, the ear, way down here below everything because of the angle we're looking from. But it's still, again, if you just look at it like that, the other ear is probably somewhere here, we just can't see it. The jaw, if you want to continue the jaw, still doing the end thing because of the angle. Normally rather than call it the end thing, let's call it the rainbow. Doing this here because of this angle is doing more like this, right? We barely see any forehead. Still gonna see a little bit, almost always, depending on the angle. But for this example, we don't see. One key thing here is you don't get to see the other eye at all because the nose is blocking it. So you have to ignore it. I see some people make the mistake of trying to force an eye in there because of the angle, and it just doesn't work. You're trying to show something that just shouldn't be seen, and so people will struggle with that, and the only reason you're struggling with it is because you're trying to force an eye into a place where it's not supposed to be. And you can almost think of it like foreshortening, where parts of the body are blocking other parts of the body. So the other eye, we're just going to ignore it because we don't see it. And that's easier for you because that's an eye you don't get to draw, I guess. And those are the key things to remember here. The ear is still pretty low. In some cases it might be higher. You want to keep in mind that styles are different, and even human figures are different. You're people with faces that are very different from one another, and so things might be placed not exactly the same as everybody else, but it's always going to be, at least with a realistic approach, it's always going to be pretty close. And then here we have the last head we're going to do. This is going to be similar to what we've been doing so far. I have this line that's just letting me know where the eyes are going to be and where the nose is going to be, so I know that the nose is going to have that bump regardless because of the angle we're drawing from. Anti-view, warm eye view. The jaw is going to do the N versus like a U, more like a rainbow type of thing, like similar to one of the past examples in this same video. But I guess maybe slightly not as steep. I guess the main difference with this example is that the nose here is going to block one of the eyes, but it's not going to block the eye completely. So we're going to see a little bit of the eye, and this is a case where you get to see the eye, but you don't see the eye completely because the nose, from the angle we're viewing from, covers it a little. Same deal as always. You get to see more nostril, less of a bridge of the nose. The eyes are kind of below the bridge from the angle we're viewing from. The ear is beneath a lot of stuff. And the hard part is practically done. Sometimes these angles can be cool shading wise. So you can shade the bridge of the nose completely if like there's a light source coming from beneath. The only thing is here in this illustration it doesn't work completely because I'm shading under the jaw, but ignore that. You can shade the bridge of the nose a little bit, shade, say, the whole forehead in some cases, and sometimes, especially in like comics, that can be used to convey a thing or two. Here you see with the ear is in the similar position again. It's really low because of the angle. But here I changed it a little bit. I kind of changed the angle halfway through, and we're going to do something where the jawline, it's not doing an N or doing a U, it's more of doing almost like a straight line, and that's what I'm changing to. So it's not every time the angles are one or the other. They could be, it's up to you really. We see more nostril here, more nostril again, Then when you're just looking straight on, we see more upper lip. The eyes are, again, doing a little bit of that curve, and they're beneath the bridge of the nose. You can shade forehead. In this case, again, we still see less forehead, but more more so than, say, some of the other examples we've done here. The ears, again, we don't see the other ear because of the angle that we're drawing from. The ear kind of connects to the jaw, and this is just drawing. Kind of connects to the jaw a little bit. We don't have to show the connection completely, and I don't think I do completely here either, but that kind of helps guide you in drawing that jaw. But here we're not doing like a U with the jaw, or an N, or a rainbow, or a U, a stretched out U, or anything like that. It was doing more of like a straight line, so the angle is really just catching it at that sweet spot. So it's more like it's more straight, a little U, I guess, towards the ends, but like it's more straight than anything else. And like the neck, because of the angle we're drawing from, is a little bit of a profile, and so the neck kind of, you can see the neck will kind of be, at least the line to indicate where the neck is a little bit showing, you know, behind the ear. At least the line starts behind the ear. It's not something that the neck kind of has to start from here. And to be fair, that mainly works here. It depends on the character, it depends on your style, it depends on what you're doing. But for some people, that might help. And yeah, that's really it to watch out for here. And boom, that's really the illustration. Have the map, the face mapped out as such. And boom, there you go. And those are the examples I have for you guys using neon. Please, if you enjoyed this illustration, if you enjoyed this video and all of that, don't forget to leave a like in the United States and smash that subscribe button and hit that bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. If you want to see more of Neon, you can check her out in Apple Black. Volume 1, Volume 2 are out. You can also read the first 6 chapters of Apple Black for free. Links to everything you could possibly need will be in the description below. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Everything is all linked in the description below. You can support me, support Saturday AM. You can subscribe to the magazine, which is now $2.99 a month. There are also links in the description to get 2 free months of Skillshare. You're welcome. I also like to thank my patrons who make these videos possible: Arrow, Alec, Ayosafo, Fado, Hack, Wolfin, Sarah, Tony, and more. It's been swell, guys. Check out my other videos. This is Whyt Manga, and I'm out.